Absolutely. So yeah, we're joining. We joined last week. We're happy to be back to share our new updates, our new partnerships with Google's MedLM for our clinical research that we're doing with pharma. Patientory is essentially a digital health passport wallet. We're giving you access to all of your medical and health data from your diagnostics and medical records to your wearable devices. And we're compiling that into a complete health profile that is managed by an AI health coach. So this AI health coach gives you wellness recommendations on how you can start to improve your health on a daily basis. By meeting those health goals, you're rewarded with crypto. So we are live today on the Apple and the Google Play Store. But our recent partnership with Google MedLM LLM is essentially using the data that you own to mine it. Start to look at different scenarios for submission to FDA. So thousands of drugs today are on shelves due to the fact that pharma has had a challenge in getting access to accurate, holistic health information for their clinical research studies. So there's a 90% failure rate today in any new drug therapy because of the lack of access to healthcare information. And we're bridging that gap by allowing users to get paid for sharing their data for clinical research, but also assisting pharma create new just scenarios that can better their FDA submissions.
Wow, that's really interesting. And like hearing like a 90% failure rate that's absolutely insane. One thing I'm really curious about, and you don't like, at least me personally, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, is like Google MedLM. Like what? I guess I've never even like Google and medicine, Google and healthcare. Like you don't really hear that too often. I guess, for people that are listening and even myself and others, like explain how that relationship came about. Like how did you even discover that Google was involved in this? Maybe you've known the entire time, but I'm curious to learn more
Uh,
about that and then the value that they're providing.
Yeah, so we're actually a Google Cloud startup partner. So through that relationship that we have, we currently host some of our nodes in our blockchain on Google Cloud, and they reached out to us to be part of their Web3, startup portfolio, which we agreed to. We also pitched at this last consensus, and we were a top 40 company there. So through that, we learned of the initiatives that they had Med LLM, which is pretty much, part of their BARD and other AI initiatives that they've launched. So we're one of the first companies to essentially utilize the Med LLM for our specific pharma research by being a part of their portfolio.
Wow, that's like, super fascinating. And so you had mentioned, leveraging blockchain, getting patients, paid for participating. Like what has been, some of the challenges that you've had and kind of, when you're talking about like blockchain and Web3 and all this stuff, like have there been any, difficult challenges in that and how have you guys kind of overcome that?
Yeah, I think our challenge now is just pretty much educating the masses, really finding that consumer brand fit. I would say, people are hesitant, especially when it comes to healthcare records and healthcare data. And I think what we're, really focusing on is really educating people about the importance and the power of controlling your data, why blockchain helps with this, and pretty much really, spreading the awareness that your data is being sold today, right? And you're not profiting from it and you have no consent over that. So I think, that's the main takeaway, and why blockchain is so important to really democratize individual ownership of healthcare information, but really start to provide the privacy and the consent controls needed to have individuals be a part of this new data economy.
And so as you've onboarded new users, like what's been the feedback from people of like once you've kind of overcome that initial hurdle of, what, hey, blockchain's not bad, it's here to help you, can be leveraged good. Like what's the feedback like once they're in the ecosystem and now they're utilizing this new technology? And like, I'm sure you've been in this industry a long time and like how does that differ from the experience before?
Yeah, I think that there is a ramp up. We had to end up creating like a user tutorial for the process because, like many with the crypto wallets, there is still a really ramp up around getting people to understand and keep their private keys secure, etc. Overall, I think what we found in terms of feedback is, people like the ability to start to integrate both medical and wearable device data. We found that people are already tracking, things like their, through fitness apps, like their steps, how much times they're exercising. That tool was pretty useful for people and being able to see how they're continuing to get rewarded for that.
That's I like that. And so, one of the things that, we talked about quite a bit on this panel is like the use of AI and generative AI in these clinical trials. So it's like you guys are on the bleeding edge of, we're talking Web3 wallets, and now we're talking about generative AI. Like how is like generative AI enhancing these, clinical trials? And is it, helping with the success rate of some of these drugs? You mentioned a 90% failure rate. Like how is this technology improving that?
Yeah, yeah. So again, we're actually supplementing that with prior approved FDA trial submissions. So using this, especially creating medical writing for applications, clinical trial research teams can, instead of thinking and submitting and hoping that they're getting approval from an FDA. The Gen AI can really start to spit out different types of inputs, right? And really benchmark it against what their study is and what was approved before, to really steer their research in the right direction that would get approved for the FDA, right? Because as we know, clinical trial research can take anywhere. They only have 20 years to really keep their patents, so that they don't have competition from other drug makers and drug providers, right, for different new and novel medications. So they're against time, and research can take anywhere from 10 to 15 years um, for these new.
What did you did we lose Patientory? Chris, are you with us?
I heard it cut off. I don't know if she disappeared.
Yeah, I didn't know if she'd completed the thought or
Yeah.
just went into a dead spot. Now, sometimes with spaces, you never really know because they're both kind of like one and the same.
Let's give it a second. She might cycle back around. I hear something. Is that
Oh,
you, Krista? Yeah.
nope.
Must not be, man. So I had another question for her, and I'm going to pretend that you're her, K2, even though you don't know the answer to this. But they've got a wallet that's out. Where she was going to go, or what I was going to ask her about, is this wallet that's out, because I want to know who's the target consumer for this. Because we look at the panel, who we've got up here. We've got some AI big brains and people that are into the health sector. But I'm listening to all this, and I'm actually wondering who is a target consumer for this type of thing, because this isn't what my grandma is maybe going to be interested in. I'm not no shade to my grandma, Well, shout out to grandma, AK. I'm not saying that I couldn't convert her or anything, but she's a Bitcoin maxi. You know how it goes. They're set in their ways. You can't change a dinosaur. What is it? A tiger doesn't change their stripes. So maybe I can convert her to an AI enthusiast, but she's more of a Terminator 1 than a Terminator 2, if you know what I mean. But they've got this app, and I'm just wondering, and when she comes back around, I'll ask her, but I'll be wondering what you guys think too. Who do you think is the target audience for this type of thing? Because we can't be it. You guys know by the very nature of being here, or potentially even participating in this space, is we're the easy sell. We're not the ones that they actually target. So who do you think is the absolute target? And AK, because you were laughing at me so hard, who are we really
So
selling this to?
thanks. That's a great question. I think that honestly, because of the technology hurdle to a lot of the boomers and the older generation, I think integrating them into using these apps on their smartphones, if they do have smartphones, could be something that could be trained. Like, healthcare providers could begin training them and providing kind of like manuals. Now, I think that the biggest audience that would be the users of this, in my opinion, although it should be the older generation, as they do have more health needs as opposed to the younger generation, I think it would be really great to start onboarding the newer generations. And I was just mentioning this in an earlier space I was in on today. And, one of the biggest onboarders in crypto has been essentially, unfortunately, it's not a good thing, the meme coins, the celebrity coins and the meme coins and the things that the regular Web2 world recognizes because they're real people, they're real celebrities, and they trust them, they follow them, etc. And then they go in and they get onboarded onto crypto. They buy a meme coin. Sorry, I'm going to end it here, but they buy a meme coin as their early first crypto, and they might never make any money and it might never work. So why I'm saying this, I would like the younger generation to be onboarded onto applications that are actually making a difference in our future. So whereas I said this is an infant stage idea still, because there's a lot of framework to go in there, when we're bringing in the younger generations and they're super tech savvy and they're being born into crypto and into blockchain, this is what they start to integrate into their actual smartphones and into their lives, in my opinion, as they progress in age, become 18 years old, and enter the world of maybe buying and purchasing their own cryptos and investments and earnings and rewards and etc. So I'm really excited about the younger generation more than the older generation, and that's why I say we're still very early in our crusade.
I agree, man. Thank you
Absolutely.
for jumping in on that. And Chris, are you back? Are you with us?
I am.
Yeah. Did you heard him? So we're kind of talking about the app and who might be the target for this wallet, because I wasn't slurring my grandma, but I don't know if this is something that my grandma would be interested in. And we were kind of debating, who are you targeting to download this wallet and track with you?
Yeah, well, our goal right now and where we're targeting out the gate is chronic disease sufferers. So as you know, the U.S. has one of the highest chronic disease rates. Almost over 60% of the population has one or more chronic illnesses, right? It's like over like 200 million people. So our goal is really focusing on that. Working with pharma. They're looking at a lot more, getting into more rare diseases and oncology studies, so cancer studies. So looking at the population there of about over 60 million people that can really benefit, right? Because this is where research today is targeted. This is where we can use the AI health coach to really start to provide these insights and get people on a healthcare regimen that they can feel that they're, being reminded, they're being supported and improving on a daily basis.
I remember last time we had that conversation about diabetes and how tracking diabetes, not just on an individual level, but on a geographical level, would impact things. And you had my head spinning the rest of the day, girl. I walked around. I was like,
Yeah.
damn, that's such a good point, because you can change things on such a micro and macro level when you've got the data. So if you guys know more about what she's talking about, and if you know anybody that's suffering from chronic diseases of any type, then you know how valuable that could be. K2, we got time for one or two more questions. What do you want to know?
I think on that note, talking about, who the target customer is, like how can they find you? I think I would love to know, one, how can they find you? But then, maybe even before that, like what does the future look like for Patientory? Like how does this progress? What does the advancement, for you guys look like?
Yeah, for sure. So, we're currently partnering with patient advocacy groups, really larger consumer organizations. Someone mentioned, we're at the early stages. I think what we've done successfully at Patientory is that we've made it pretty seamless. So, we know that everyone is not going to understand Web3 or this whole technology that's pretty much behind the scenes. But we're an app. We're an app for people to really start to learn about their health, improve their health. And, being able to utilize these technologies is really how we're getting that information to them today, but really making it seamless for them to, log on and start to get alerts on a daily basis. So to have that mass adoption. So our focus is really, where our current, target market is in terms of, the patient advocacy groups that are advocating for a lot of these diseases, and have built up a massive population and millions of people in their communities to start getting people onboarded.
Hardest thing to do is to get them to start. Once they're started, they're going to be fully onboarded. It's so funny. It's so hard to get people to start anything. It's always that initial hurdle to overcome before they get going. But once they see the value, they're going to be there. Last time we had a Spaces, I kind of ended it the same way. I asked the same question, but I love it so much. And as we've got a new audience today, because everyone's always new at the show, I'd like to ask you the same thing if I could. So there's a whole bunch of people that follow Mario's account that might be hearing about Patientory and all your data management and healthcare work for the first time. Very excited. They're going to go download the app in the App Store. They're going to take part. We know they're going to do that, right? And then there's the audience from Patientory that follows you here because it's a big show and they're excited to support you and hear you talk about Patientory. And it's very cool that they are here with you today. So for those two audiences, before we close out, what would you have to say to them, Krissa?
I would say start owning your health. I think, we're moving in an age where, we're seeing our health providers more as consultants, and we're able to, empower ourselves just by having access to our data. So I would say take the first step, download Patientory. We're really making it seamless and easy for individuals to learn more about their health and get rewarded for being healthy.
Awesome. I hope everybody's willing to do that too. I'll spare you guys the rant about taking ownership of your health, but as a fitness professional, I could not be more in line with what you just said. Everybody, you got to do it. No one's going to break in your house and get you fit. No one's going to kick in your front door and put the vegetables on your plate and make you take a run or check your blood pressure, for crap's sakes. Krissa, I appreciate you pulling Patientory into another Mario Nafal Spaces. I feel like we could have a much longer conversation. So every time I get to spend an hour with you, I learn a little bit more. Thank you to all the listeners who pulled up and left comments. I know we had to fight the AI today. It was probably hard for everyone to get in. You saw Krissa and all of our guests cycle through. So thanks to everybody that fought the AI to get through today. And thank you to the speakers. You guys know when we send out the invites, we do not know where you are, but we sure appreciate it when you pull up and add to the flavor to the Spaces. AK, Lady Trader, AGI, and everybody else that cycled through. And I always like to say thanks to Mario and the team at IBC. And today, my special guest co-host, K2. This was our first time, buddy. I hope you had a good time. I hope we lifted y'all up. Everybody hit some emojis for K2 as he closes out the show.
Oh man, you know what? This was a magical time. You know what they say, you never forget your first time. So, I'm glad that we could share this moment. But want to thank Patientory, want to thank our amazing speakers as well. Make sure that you like, share, retweet, tell a friend, even if they're not your friend, tell a friend. But most importantly, if you are an aspiring project that's sitting in the audience right now, or an aspiring a project, make sure that you reach out to Mario and team to get this amazing exposure. We have some of the best and brightest on this stage, and it's a great way to get exposure and spread awareness to your project. So I want to thank everybody one more time for coming out to an amazing episode of Mario Nafal on the Roundtable Spaces. We'll see you guys back here next time for one of our amazing guests. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.